Arthur was an ordinary office clerk, content with his simple life and routine. But on an unusually bright autumn afternoon, sometime around October 31st, he felt a strange urge to get outside, to feel the crisp air and see the vibrant colors of the changing leaves. He glanced around the office. No one would miss him for a little while. With that thought, he stepped outside and began walking, letting his feet carry him wherever they pleased. He wandered through the town, enjoying the break from his desk, until he found himself at the edge of a thick forest he had often seen but never explored. The trees stood tall, their leaves glowing amber and red in the late afternoon light. Drawn by their beauty, Arthur decided to venture in, following a narrow trail that twisted and turned deeper into the woods. The canopy above filtered the sunlight, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. Arthur felt peaceful, almost stunned by the quietness around him. But as he continued, he became so absorbed in the scenery that he lost track of time and direction. The path had faded into the undergrowth, and he realized he hadn't been paying attention to his surroundings. Every way he looked seemed unfamiliar. Panic crept in as the sun began to sink lower. He tried retracing his steps, but each direction looked the same. His phone was useless, no signal, and a nearly drained battery. He tried to remember the way he came, but his mind was clouded with anxiety. The light was fading fast, and the beautiful forest had turned dark and scary. Shadows stretched long and heavy, cloaking the trees in a veil of mystery. As twilight settled, Arthur's heart pounded. He picked up his pace, stumbling over roots and brushing past low branches, hoping to find a familiar landmark. The forest seemed to thicken around him, and the quiet felt heavy. Arthur's breaths became shallow as he strained his eyes, desperately searching for any sign of an exit. Hours passed, and the once inviting woods were now an endless maze. The daylight was nearly gone, casting the forest into a dim, bluish hue. Arthur paused, his heart racing, his throat dry, feeling the weight of isolation pressing down on him. He was lost, truly lost, with nothing but the darkening forest surrounding him. Just then, he caught a glimpse of something in the distance, a break in the trees, perhaps? Hope surged through him as he moved toward it, but as he drew closer, he realized it was just another dense cluster of trees just like the last. The night was upon him now, and with a cold shiver, Arthur understood that he was utterly, completely alone. The forest loomed around him, silent and unmoving as he stood there, wondering if he'd ever find his way out. As the night crept in, cold and silent, a strange thought bubbled up. He wondered if he had any friends at work who would even notice that he was missing. As Arthur sat alone in the darkness, questions began to flood his mind, each one more pressing than the last. 1. What motivated Arthur to explore the woods? 2. How did Arthur feel when he first entered the forest? 3. What were the initial signs that Arthur was lost? 4. How did Arthur react when he realized he was lost? 5. What emotions did Arthur experience during his time in the woods? 6. How did the environment of the forest change as Arthur ventured deeper? 7. What thoughts crossed Arthur's mind during his moments of panic? 8. How did Arthur's perception of the forest change over time? 9. What lessons did Arthur learn from his journey? 10. How did Arthur's journey end? And so Arthur's story continues with more questions than answers, and a journey that is far from over. If you'd like to hear the end of the story and how or if Arthur gets out of the forest, click the link in the description to buy this book, True News, 100 Faith-Based Stories by Tamilla Perera. It's an hour of nail-biting adventures, romance, and life skills. Answers 1. It was merely curiosity, or perhaps a deeper yearning for something more. 2. There was an initial thrill, a sense of adventure, but it quickly gave way to uncertainty. 3. The familiar paths vanished, the landmarks blurred, and the comforting sounds of civilization faded. 4. Panic set in, his heart raced, and his mind struggled to grasp the reality of his situation. 5. Fear, Desperation and a profound loneliness enveloped him. 6. The trees grew denser, the shadows longer, and the air colder, as if the forest itself was closing in on him. 7. He wondered if he would ever find his way back, if anyone would come looking for him, if he would survive the night. 8. What once seemed like a place of beauty and mystery became a labyrinth of danger and despair. 9. He realized the importance of preparation, the value of companionship, and the strength that lies within oneself in times of crisis. 10. That remains a mystery, for as the questions swirled in his mind, the night grew darker and the forest more silent.